Hello and welcome to the Wake Up Podcast. I am Ben Cason here with a very special guest, a Pueblo legend on the radio, Nick Donovan. Nick, how are you doing today?
Well, I don't know about special guest or legend. Legend just means you're old usually, but thank you for having me.
You're old. No,
yeah. Yeah, thank you for having me. Man, what a facility you guys have here, you know?
Yeah, I appreciate you. Yeah, I mean, it's a great spot. I love it so much.
Yeah,
I've been here for a couple months. It's great.
Really cool. So you guys are got some good things going on. I know that. So kind of fun to be a part of it right now.
Absolutely. And you've also got a lot going on. When you're talking about, it's Christmas season, right?
Yeah,
it's Christmas season at KPHT. A lot's going on.
Jingle Bell Rock is the big thing. And, that kind of, this is the 50th anniversary of the Jingle Bell Rock. We had huge things planned for it. And then, of course, COVID-19 had other plans for us. So we had to back off that a little bit and change some things. We're doing virtual showings and things like that instead of people actually coming up and taking a look at the rock, which has changed over all these years, how people do that even. But so everything's a little bit different.
That's cool. And see, I was telling you before you came in here, like last year I went and searched for the rock because I thought I knew exactly where it was. I had the clues. I was like, all right, I've got it. It's my year.
Yeah.
And then I was like by a lake on the south side, and then I like heard you on the radio, and you were like, "Oh, somebody found it, east side." And I was like, "Dang it!"
If it's any consolation, see, I was looking for the rock before I was a part of it. I was about 13 or 14 when the first year they did the rock, and we were out looking for it, and I was totally on the wrong side of town too. So it's all the clues made sense though to be at that place.
Yeah, hey, same thing for me. Like I got caught up on the Griswold clue last year. You had like a clue about Griswold that got mentioned.
Who knows?
Something. There's a lot of clues. I know.
Yeah, those come off the top of my head. I don't even know what it means now. So.
That's cool. So for people who aren't from Pueblo, can you kind of explain to me what the Jingle Bell Rock is and what that tradition is like?
Sure.
And
The
your
Jingle
involvement
Bell Rock was started by a group of guys. There was like 3 guys back in the day at KDZA radio, and it was Frank Provenza, it was J. Ralph Carter, and Randy J. that basically kind of came up with the idea. From what I understand, I wasn't in the business at that time. This was about 1970, 71. And they kind of wanted to do something kind of like the Yule log in Beulah, where they just hid something. So they say, hey, we got to hide a rock because we're the Rock of Pueblo. They played rock music.
Oh, okay. All right.
So it was going to, from what I understand, it was going to be a one-time thing, Christmas thing. And it was so successful that it kept going and going and going. Well, I've been a part of it for well over 30 years because I kind of helped with it before I was even in radio because they used to say, you're the only guy I know that we can trust to keep his mouth shut. So I was kind of helping out behind the scenes with it and some things like that. And I've tried to keep that tradition going. So the tradition is we hide a rock and then it's worth thousands and thousands of dollars in cash and prizes. And it's grown every year. Last year, I think it was like 38,000 or something like that it was worth. And then we give you clues on the radio, and we give you clues of different things, clues at the sponsor locations and things like that. And whoever finds it wins all the prizes, all the stuff. Yeah. So one person won all the stuff last year. And again, as I mentioned, because of COVID-19, things are a little bit different this year. Yeah. But still worth a lot. And we're going to give you clues, and we're going to do all that. And it's just been a Pueblo tradition where I looked for it, like I mentioned, when I was like 13 or 14 years old. So people my age were looking for it. Then they started taking their kids to look for it. Yeah. And now they take their grandkids to look for it. So what a great tradition. And I wish I could say that was my idea and I'm the one that but I'm not the guy that came up with it. I'm just the guy that's kept the tradition alive for a long time.
And I think that's really valuable. Like the execution of it is great. I mean,
well, thanks. Yeah, thanks. And it's obviously we've had to change it over the years because of social media and different things have really changed everything. In the old days, it would be in a glass box and people would come to look at it and they'd bring a tape measure and a piece of paper and they'd measure it through the box and they'd kind of draw the shape of it. And, you wouldn't take a picture of it because you couldn't get it developed for a week or so. Yeah. So that wouldn't be any good. The things you don't even think about now. Now everybody has a phone camera and, take a picture of it and they can send it to all their friends. So we've kind of revamped that so you can't do that so much. Okay. Different things, but still fun. I think people still have a great time when they go out there and look too.
Yeah, I had a really great time last year. I mean, it's such an interesting tradition because it seems so easy. That's what makes it so good, right? You hear the clues and you're like, I've got it. This is my year.
I know what that means. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the first clue is always the same. Don't ask your mother. Don't ask your daughter. The Jingle Bell Rock is either hidden near water or not hidden near water. That's always the first clue, has been for as long as I've been a part of it.
Gotcha.
And I think before then too. So.
And so has it been hidden yet for this year?
Not yet. No.
Okay. All right. Sweet.
And I'd have to kill you if I told you when and all that kind of stuff. And I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I think let's avoid that today.
Yeah, but I don't want that on my hands and conscience, you know.
That's cool. So yeah, I mean, so talk to me a little bit about how long you've been in radio here in Pueblo. So you're a guy that has a lot of reputation. I got into radio at Rev 89 a while back. So Jenna Mangino is in charge of that. And she,
Jenna Mangino, good lady
sings
there.
your praises. How great you are, and you have a great radio voice.
Don't listen to everything that she has to say either, but she drinks Dr. Pepper like it's, she did anyway, like it was water. Well, I drink Diet Pepsi, But anyway,
nice.
I started at KDZA AM, which was AM 1230 back in the 80s.
Okay.
And that was the station that everybody grew up to back in the day. I mean, they would have, anybody that knows anything about radio, it's in shares and things in the ratings book. KDZA would have 50 shares.
Wow.
You never heard of such a thing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And in the 70s, KDCA's where you heard Michael Jackson first, and where you heard, the Doobie Brothers first, and where you heard Elton John for the first time. You heard him on KDCA, AM 1230, and it was just a legend, and all the guys that worked there were legends. And it's kind of why I wanted to get into radio. I didn't really care about being in radio. I wanted to work at KDZA because that just seemed like that was the coolest thing in the world. And my first radio job was at KDZA, and I started out on the ground floor pushing buttons and doing things like that. And they came in, and it's the old story. Hey, dude, you got to go on at midnight because so-and-so can't make it. He's sick.
Yeah.
And we need you to change your name. And
you changed your name?
Yeah, I had to change my name.
So what was your original name then?
My real
is your original
my real
name?
name. My real last name is Knezevich.
Okay.
And that's too hard to say on the radio. I can't hardly say it, let alone anybody else. So I thought about it, came up with Donovan to get me through that night. And once you put it out there, you can't take it back. You can't take it back. So started there at the AM station and stayed there until they basically shut it down. And hung out for a while, worked some different places. And then there was a group of people, Paul Jones, who was partners in the Loaf and Jug thing when they sold out Loaf and Jug to Kroger.
Okay.
He bought the stations on Highway 50 West. It's about where Southwest Motors is now. Southwest Motors, Bradley's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And he put on 107.9 there, which was an oldie station. It was totally oldies, 50s, 60s, a little bit of 70s oldies. And I got hired there, and things just kept going. And we flipped that to KDZA FM because that was so legendary. And things just changed and ended up working for Clear Channel and iHeart and all that good stuff. So it's all been good.
That's amazing. It's just opportunity after opportunity, right?
Well, I don't make enough money that they want to fire me, and I work hard,
Oh no!
So they've kept me around.
So take me through, like you mentioned, you had that opportunity, like late at night. You're working your first job. You've never done it. Like, had you done actually any on air before that?
No, I hadn't done any on air, but they let me practice in the production room.
Okay.
So that I'd had a tape. So I made a tape in the production room.
Nice.
I would go in with my buddy Lee Douglas, the late Lee Douglas, and he was working Saturday mornings. So he'd say, when I'm on the air on Saturday mornings, you can come in and I'll let you in the production room, and then you can. So I practiced and practiced and practiced. And a few weeks later, we made a tape, and it was horrible, but they still hired me to be a button pusher.
Yeah.
And I ran the show. It was Dick Clark was one of the shows, and a couple other shows that they used to come on records. Big 78 records, and you would play the record, and then when they'd take a break, you'd play the local commercials, and then you'd play the cart that said, "Hey, this is Dick Clark, and you're listening to KDZA." So it sounded local, And so that's kind of how I got started, is they needed a button pusher, and
gotcha.
I'd work like 30 hours over the weekend, just 8 on, 8 off, 8 on, 8 out kind of thing,
Yeah.
And like I say, until one day, hey, so-and-so isn't going to be here at midnight. You got to go on and you got to come up with a different name.
So what was going through your head then? Whenever you sit down, it's midnight. You've never done it before on the actual radio.
Yeah, they had me, they had me come in on a Wednesday night, like at 3:00 in the morning. This was before this time to make sure that I could do it.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
With another guy, and kind of, it was horrible. It was horrible. I remember going home and I remember telling my mom, that was the worst 3 hours of my life. That was horrible pressure. And, one thing led to another. And like I say, then when I got the call and I was on there by myself, it was pressure. I'm thinking 6 hours, midnight to 6 a.m. and you had to take care of all the stuff for the morning show. Back then, there was no internet. You had the teletype machines, the AP machines printing out. They didn't print out selective stuff. It printed everything. So you'd have piles and piles and piles of paper, and you'd have to go through it because the morning guy wanted, well, I want this, and I want sports, and I want this, and you'd have to get it, and you'd have to hang it up. There were nails sticking out of the wall, and you would grab, okay, there's the sports, here's the kickers, here's the news stories. So when they walked in at 2 minutes to 6 o'clock, they could sit down and go,
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. So it's a funny story. Like my first radio break that I did without whenever I did it at the college, right? So Jenna has a class that like trains you how to do it, and you've got the big board there, and you go through everything. But the first one that I was by myself for, like the way that our board worked, there was a thing called program that you have to keep your mic in to where it goes on. You know what that means, right?
Oh, yeah.
So my first break, I forgot to put the mic on program. And so I did the whole break, and I was like, killed it. I was like, killed that. That was great. And I get a message from Jenna. It's like, hey, you didn't even go on. And I was like, oh.
Talk about letting the air out of yourself.
Yeah, that was like, I was like, first break, yikes.
Well, to be honest, my very first break is the guy was in the room with me, and if we were sitting at the control board like this and I'm on the air, and I did the break, and I pushed the chair back, and he's standing back there, and I said, boy, that frickin' sucked. And I had to shut the mic off.
Oh, no. Boy,
and he's going like this, and pretty soon he reaches around me and shuts the mic off. You didn't shut the mic off. So I learned from that day on to always shut the mic off and watch what you say. Whenever you're in that room, watch what you say,
Yeah.
The minute you put the headphones on, it's like...
You never know. You never know if it's a live mic.
You never know what's going to come out, yeah.
That's amazing. So let's talk about this. So obviously you've worked in radio for a while, and you're very passionate about it. What do you think is the magic of radio? Why is it so important?
I think everybody likes radio. You may not like the same format, but I think everybody likes radio, and you get a chance to be friends with people that you don't even know. And I mean, not to pat myself on the back, but you help a lot of people through a lot of stuff that you don't even realize you are. They're having a bad day, or maybe something tragic has happened, and different things like that. Well, the radio is an escape for all that, and radio is for lack of a better term, they've always said theater of the mind. You can picture whatever you want, what the guy looks like, what the girl looks like, where they're at, all those kind of things. You picture all that in yourself, and a good radio person, and there's a lot way better than I am, but they're really great storytellers. They can tell a story, and it's like you picture all of it in your head, and you're picturing the whole thing in your head. That's a really good radio person you're going to picture something different than I'm going to picture, and I'm going to picture something different than somebody else is going to picture. And there's no wrong answer there. So you get to touch a lot of people, and you get to help a lot of people, which it's nice having a medium where you can do that. Being on the radio, we've done food drives and different things like that for years and years and years. You actually get to see what you're doing when you do something like that, because back in the day, especially before internet, you didn't know if there were 2 people listening, 2,000 people listening. You had no idea. If the phone was ringing, that's cool, but you have no idea. But when you do something that you can really touch people, and again, a food drive comes to mind because it's something tangible. People are bringing you food, and you're filling the back of a truck, or you're filling something up with food. You realize all of a sudden that, wow, I'm touching a lot of people, and you got power to touch a lot of people. And I think if you use that power to benefit people, I think that's the good thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do. I mean, if you think about, I think about a lot of things. I think about, I was on the radio. I remember I wasn't on the radio yet, but when Elvis died, I remember hearing it on the radio, and you're way too young to know anything about Elvis, but when Elvis died, it was monumental. And I remember hearing it on the radio and telling my mom, and my mom started crying, and it was just like, wow. But later on, I was on the radio when the Branch Davidians in Waco and all that stuff went down there. I was on the radio exactly when all that was happening. I was on the radio when they ran in, the planes flew into the Twin Towers. I was on the radio at exactly that time, and it was like...
And giving updates.
It was crazy, I mean, the news wires hadn't even caught up, and we're seeing it on TV, and we're seeing this stuff, and we're trying, and this was before social media and all that. it was just crazy, but how rewarding it was to be able to tell people what was going on there and try to keep people calm a little bit and going through all that stuff. But one of the most rewarding things for me was we had a huge blizzard here in Pueblo in 1997, huge blizzard, and it basically shut the whole town down. And I woke up, I was going in, I didn't work at 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning, but I go to the radio station every day. That's just what I do. I make sure everything's fine.
Yeah.
And I woke up and KDZA was off the air because of the snow. It was so much snow. So I thought, I got to go in and see why we're off the air. So I go to the radio station. Well, I didn't realize how much it had snowed. And I walk in the door, and the guy from KCCY we were in the same building together. He says, I got to go home. My grandmother's sick and she can't get her pills. I said, well, go. I'll just run KCCY and I'll go on the air on KCCY until somebody can get in. Well, they couldn't get in for 2 days. So I was in there on a station, and everybody that knows me knows I hate country music. So I'm on a country music station.
Yeah.
But what was really rewarding was that was the only radio station that was on the air. So people were calling me. I was their lifeline for a lot of things because they couldn't get through to the power company. They couldn't get through to this. They couldn't get through to all these. They couldn't even reach maybe their other family members and stuff. So I was the lifeline for all that. But also the sheriff's department would call me and say, we need some 4-wheel drives. Can you get us some 4-wheel drives? So I'd go on the air. Hey, we need 4-wheel drives. If you could help out, go to this location or call this phone number or whatever. Yeah. And then the sheriff's department would call me later. We need to know what gas stations are open. Because you can't drive all over town. And guys, a lot of the, like say, loaf and jugs, they weren't all open. There was so much snow they couldn't open.
That's wild.
So yeah, there might be 1 or 2. So they needed to know which gas stations were open so they could go get gas in these vehicles and it was really rewarding for the fact of, like I say, I think we probably saved people's lives and all kinds of stuff. And usually I'm a guy that's on the radio jacking around, and here it was a real tangible thing. And that just still sticks in my mind of, when we got done with all that of 2 days of being on the air, it was like, wow, I actually did something here. We really did something. So that was pretty cool.
I think in those moments as well, like, for people who've been in Pueblo listening to Nick Donovan for years and years and years, right? You've got a very friendly voice and a very
yeah, but I'm a jerk in real life.
Well, yikes. No, I'm talking like I think it's like in a situation like that to have something, like you're talking about. I think that's just a really calming, really good thing. I agree. That's a big part of radio. Well,
yeah, and that's it. You're people's friends, whether you've ever seen them or you ever will see them. And, I've, especially with social media now, you realize I know all kinds of people that I really don't know who they are, but we have daily conversations. And
they know a lot about what you think.
Yeah, right? And now I know a lot about them thanks to social. I can't even say it, social media. I know a lot about them, even though I really don't know them. But we converse and share stuff, and it's all because of the radio tie, really, because they've listened for years and supported a lot of things we've done for years.
So let me ask you this. I ask a lot of people that come in this, especially people that have been in Pueblo for a long time.
Okay.
Why is Pueblo special? What makes Pueblo different?
Pueblo's Pueblo. I mean, it's, Pueblo's like family. And Pueblo's just like a big family. Yeah, sure, there's some things you don't like, some people you don't like in your family probably, but they're still your family,
Yeah.
And I think when the chips are down, Pueblo always pulls together. I think, some of the things that we've done in the past with radio and that, you can see, again, going back to food drives, some of the people that probably need the food worse than the people we're going to give it to are the ones that are donating food, and they're coming around like that. Yeah. And it's just Pueblo's a small town, and you figure Pueblo West and Blend and all that. Pueblo's a small town with 150,000 people in it. In reality, and you can walk down the street and people recognize you. You recognize them. You can go somewhere. It's like a big family, and that's just kind of how I've always felt about Pueblo. And I've had offers to go different places, Denver and things like that. And I think, that's not what I do here. I'm a Pueblo guy. I want to be Pueblo guy, and that's what I am.
Yeah. So what would you say is like your vision for Pueblo as we continue to move forward? What would you like to see Pueblo become?
I love Pueblo like it is, and I'm sure it can't stay this way forever. I'd like to see Pueblo a little more like Colorado Springs in the fact of more jobs and things like that, more high-tech jobs and some things like that, you know, come into this area and say, hey, this is a great place because of, you know, the weather and the workforce and all the stuff and, you know, the friendly people and all those things. The, you know, ethnicity as part of what makes Pueblo so special too, I think, is you got so many different backgrounds and different things. Yeah, it's just awesome, you know.
That's great. So let's talk for a second as well about the Jingle Bell Rock one more time. So kind of come back to it.
I'm not going to give you any special clues.
I don't want any special clues. No,
you're not getting
I don't need it.
We don't even know
find it anyway.
We don't even know we're going to hide it yet.
So you mentioned like with COVID stuff, do you know what that's going to look like different compared to normal for Puebloans for Jingle Bell Rock?
Well, really the only part that we're doing differently is usually say we were going to be at a certain store and people would come in and look at the rock. So they know what you're searching for. Is it a rock this big? Is it this big? What shape? You know, kind of gives you an idea to narrow it down a little bit. And everybody that's ever found it has always said, I went and looked for it. I went and looked at it so I wouldn't turn over every rock and look for everything. I knew, that rock's too big. I'm not going to waste time there. Or that's the wrong color or whatever, you know. Yeah. So it makes the odds a little bit better. But the problem this year is since we can't just show it off because of social distancing and all those kind of things, we're doing it virtually. So we show a piece of the rock and you can get a piece of the rock, say at this business, and then tomorrow you might get a different piece of the rock. Thursday you might get a different piece of the rock, and then you'll put all the pieces of the rock together to see what it looks like. Gotcha. So it's a little bit of a puzzle going on right now. That's cool. And then once we get ready to hide it, then you'll know what you'll be searching for.
Sweet. And so obviously, you know, you can't give us a time or obviously any clues about it, but like when that does happen, where can people go to start finding clues and get involved in that?
Well, the best thing to do is listen to the radio. And of course, that's what any radio program director is going to do is they're going to tell you, you need to listen all the time, you know. The key to the Jingle Bell Rock is listening to the radio all the time. And we'll tell you everything. Hey, it's hidden. It's ready to go. All that kind of stuff. And, you know,
just keep
it's out there. Yeah, it's out there. First clue's coming. Hey, we got the latest clue coming. Hey, the sponsor locations have a clue. You need to go now because they've got a new clue. Yeah. You know, that kind of stuff. Or go to our Facebook page because we're going to tell you something on there. You know, again, it's totally changed from how it used to be, but I think it's made it even more exciting.
And that's 95.5, right? 95.5
yes, sir. FM. Very good.
There you go. Very sweet. Good. That's fantastic. Hey, Nick, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I love the facility here, and I love what you guys got going on here, too.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And yeah, I'm excited. We could do some more partnerships and stuff like that. You
Absolutely.
Know, love everything you're doing. And, you know, you're a great Pueblo guy. You know, definitely just great person to have in this community.
Well, I love what you guys have got going on. And Matt Smith, how do you get any better than Matt Smith?
Matt Smith. Yeah. That guy, he's a tornado, and I love it.
He is. Yes. I wish I had half his energy.
Me too, man. Me too. All right. Can you give us a nice radio outro? I can do an outro, but we got a radio guy in here.
I don't know what you want. You know, that's it for today. We'll catch you next time right here on this podcast.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you, Nick.
It wasn't very great.
That was great. I loved it. Thank you, Nick, for coming in, and thank you guys so much for listening today. We've got more of the Wake Up podcast coming out in the next couple of weeks, so be sure to check that out. By the way,
I just tell you, you know, my old morning show used to be called the Wake Up Club.
It did?
Yes,
hey, there you go.
I mean, for 15 years, it was the Wake Up Club.
Wake Up Club.
Yeah.
Where can people listen to you now? What times are you usually on?
6 to 10 on Monday through Friday on KPHT 95.5. But I also am on iHeartRadio nationwide in the afternoons. I do oldies on Real Oldies. So if you love that music from the 60s and 70s, it's Real Oldies. See, I just wasted your time. We had an outro.
This is great. I want to hear more stuff.
We were done, you know. You can't shut up a radio guy. You're going to have to shut me up.
In the same way, man. You're good. Yeah, so go check that out, Real Oldies. So you can see Real Oldies on iHeartRadio by finding that, right?
Absolutely.
And then obviously tune in between 6 and 10, 95.5 FM here in Pueblo, Colorado. So thank you so much for joining us. This has been the Wake Up Podcast. Go check out the rest of our podcast series. Go check out more that's coming. Go check out Wake Up Pueblo's social media, as well as check out KPHT and Nick Donovan. Go check everybody out. We appreciate it.
You're the man, man. Check us out.
You're the man. Thank you so much,
Mike
Nick.
Rowe's the man, I think, is how that goes, isn't it?
Mike Rowe?
Yeah. Oh. From Dirty Jobs.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Good deal. Hey, thank you, Nick. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Have a great rest of your day.